Tribal Elder with Don Kilhefner. That's me. And today our third talk is going to be about elders and eldering. You might remember from the two previous talks that what we're talking about is the four stages of life that most humans go through. First being youth, and then becoming an adult, then becoming an elder, and then becoming an ancestor. Talk 2 has talked about ancestors, and the third talk, will talk about elders. What do we mean by an elder? Very simply put, an elder is an older person, an old person, that's what you say, old person, not older, an old person, who has a role in the community, an essential role in the community, that if it is not being done, if eldering is not being done, the entire community suffers as a result of it. So elder is somebody who's doing something specific. Eldering is what an elder does. A mentor does mentoring, and largely with youth. A mentor is generally an adult working with youth, and an elder is an old person who does eldering, which means he works with adults and youth. It's something one does. I'd like to recommend a reading to you that I think is a very important reading. It's by Michael Meade, Michael as in Michael, and Meade as in M-E-A-D-E, and the title is, Where Have All the Wise Men Gone? Where have all the wise men gone? And it appeared in Huffington Post on November 10th, 2011. November 10th, 2011, and you can retrieve it there. But this is an extremely important article talking about elders in the present political context, cultural context in which we find ourselves. I'd like to read to you an excerpt from Michael's essay. In the essay, Michael says, quote, in traditional cultures, the elders are expected to remember the essential things that everybody else keeps forgetting. After growing up, a person is supposed to grow down and become rooted deeper in the ground of being, like an old tree that draws from ever deeper resources. In traditional cultures, the elders were considered to be a valuable resource, without whose guidance the whole society would lose its way. You get that one? Without whose guidance the whole society could lose its way. Michael Meade, Where Have All the Wise Men Gone? This idea gets reflected in a West African saying that I'm very fond of, and it goes, if elders are lost, adults will be lost. If adults are lost, youth will be lost. Again, it puts a central role that elders play in a society. Not the only role, but an essential role that has to be played. One of my favorite elder stories comes out of Africa and deals with elephants. In one of the large national parks in South Africa, in a certain section of the park, and these parks are huge, through death and other events, it turned out that the only elephants there was a band of young male elephants. And they were causing chaos there for other animals. They began to take control of the water hole. And in that kind of environment, the water hole becomes very, very important as a communal resource for all beings. And they would drive away animals that would come there to drink. And then they started to get even rowdier, and they would kill other animals, gouge them to death. And the park rangers were at their wits' end in terms of what to do here. And they were thinking, well, maybe they just need to move all of these elephants. And then one park ranger said, Well, why don't we bring in old elephants and see what effect that has on these young elephants? So they did that. They brought in 3 old elephants. And amazingly, immediately, the young elephants settled down. They were no longer destructive. They were no longer guarding the waterhole. They began to work cooperatively with the other elephants and the other beings that needed that waterhole. And I love that story because it shows us the effect that an elder can have on a society, a calming effect. And that young people need to have elders present, because without those elders present, something doesn't happen. There's something where these young elephants get wild, or young people if we're talking about humans, much like Lords of the Fly. So, today we're going to be talking about elders. One of the things I want to talk about right now is the difference between elders and elders, and what that difference might be, and actually why it matters.
A real warrior knows the time to fight. A real warrior knows the time is right. A real warrior, leader of the pack. A real warrior's got his brother's back.
One of the reasons why I want to talk a little bit about the difference between an older and an elder is because there's much confusion in our society around these different terms. In Michael Meade's essay, Where Have All the Wise Men Gone?, he talks about the difference between them. I first came across this from Michael Meade. He first taught me the difference between the two. When we talk about an older, we're talking about an old person who probably does not have a larger role going on for himself in the community. How he might be 70, 80 years old. He might spend a lot of time with his circle of friends. He might spend a lot of time playing bridge, watching television, but he does not see himself as having a role in the community. And that's really important. The difference with an elder is an elder has a role in the community. The elder is doing something. He is fulfilling a certain kind of role. And he's doing eldering with the adults and the young in the community. And there's a very basic difference between the two. Sometimes people will say, well, what about Harry who lives up the street? He's doing nothing. All I see him do is watching television and going out to movies with his friends, or got to dinner, or he travels around the world, or what have you. Isn't he an elder? Well, not exactly. If he isn't fulfilling a role in the community, then he probably is not fulfilling the role of elder. And so I find it useful to make a distinction between those two. There are a lot of elders out there, and there are very few elders. Can elders become elders? Of course they can. Of course they can. But phenomenologically, they're different. They fulfill different roles. Now, as I say that, let me make it real clear. I'm not saying one is better than the other. Both elders and elders deserve respect. They both deserve courtesy by younger people. They both deserve our assistance. But they fulfill different roles. And sometimes it's useful to make a differentiation like that. Because otherwise somebody will say, well, every old person's an elder. It's simply not true. There are certain people who become elders, who are elders, who do eldering, but not all old people do that. One of the things that helps to decide who is an older and who is an elder is, people vote with their feet. It's who do people go to for help? Do they go to an older? Do they go to an elder? And so that sometimes the community itself takes care of this issue simply by people knowing where to go. I don't want to make a big deal over this difference between elders and elders, but I do want us to be intellectually aware that there is a difference between the two. Now you might ask, and you should ask, how do I become an elder?
A real warrior knows about the soul, y'all. I'm a warrior.
So the question becomes, you'd like to become an elder. You're an old man, you'd like to become an elder, you'd like to contribute to the community. How do you do it? Well, many of you live in different situations. I live in probably one of the largest gay communities in the world here in Los Angeles. So there are lots of ways that I have to operate here that maybe if you are in Indonesia or Guatemala or someplace like that, it would be very, very different. Or even Boise, Idaho. So what I'm going to talk a little bit about how one becomes an elder in the world that we live in today, 2000, what is it today, 2017? In many societies, elders are initiated as elders. For example, among the Maasai people who live in Tanzania, southern part of Kenya, among the Maasai people, every 7 years, the Maasai people come together and initiate elders. That there are people who are known to be elders or ready to be elders, and they are initiated. The whole community, the whole tribe initiates these people. We don't have something like that in this country, in the United States, in most parts of the world. So the question becomes, how does one then become an elder? I would say you have to claim the role of elder. Claiming the role of elder becomes very important. That it won't be offered to you. Somebody will not come and knock on your door and say, we'd like to make you an elder. It simply won't happen. You're going to have to claim that role and become that role. Now, how does one claim becoming an elder? Well, first of all, it's going to have both form and content. And by that I mean there not only has you need to look like an elder, you need to be old and are moving in the world in a certain way. You have to have content. We live in a world which is largely right now visual culture, visual entertainment culture around the clock, and that's pretty much based on emotionality and is fairly superficial. And so literate culture is the way in which you're going to develop some content. So we need both visual culture, form, and we need literate culture, content, to make this work. And let me, before we get started, let me mention two other things that I think are important. Two Latin terms. One is instructore, from which we get the word instruction. Instructor, the way that works is it positions the fact that you are an empty vessel and we pour it into you. Somehow we pour all this knowledge into you. Educare, from which we get the word education, the original Latin meaning was you have it in you already, and what it needs to do is being pulled out from you. I am working from the second one of those, educare. That what you need to be an elder is already in you. You already know it, but somehow or another it needs to be pulled out of you in some way or another. Another way of saying that is an elder is an archetype. And at a certain point in life, for some people, that archetype gets activated. In other words, you already know it, we just need to bring it into the world. Let me suggest 7 ways here, 7 suggestions on how you might become an elder or begin the process of becoming an elder. First of all is reading. Educate yourself. Begin reading about elders. And I would suggest an excellent place to start was a suggestion I made in talk number 2 by reading Malidoma Some's book, The Healing Wisdom of Africa. The Healing Wisdom of Africa. If you read that book and understand what Malidoma is talking about, you are ready to become an elder because he shows how an elder works within a community, how he's connected to ancestors and to adults and to youth. So part of that is by reading. A second way of reading is by Googling. Google elder, Google gay elder. and look at the websites, look at the information that's there, and begin reading, begin to trying to internalize it. As you begin to internalize, something will begin moving out of you that already knows about being an elder. So reading becomes a part of that. A second thing that I would suggest is don't do it alone. Create a little gay elder circle. I did that here in Los Angeles at a certain point in my evolution as a gay elder 15 years ago, 20 years ago. Organized something called the Gay Elder Circle of Los Angeles, bringing together gay men who were interested in becoming elders, who are interested in elder consciousness. And so, depending on what your situation is, there might be one other person, there might be three other persons, older men, and it can be done in any form. It can be a group of gay men, it can be a group of gay men and lesbians, it can be a gay and lesbian elder circle. It can be gay and non-gay, just a elder circle. In other words, it depends on the situation that you're in. But try to do it with other people. With this gay elder circle, you might meet once a month. That's probably enough time meeting. And what that monthly meeting might involve is sharing what the group is discovering about what it means to be an elder and what you're encountering in becoming an elder. In other words, you bounce off of each other. And in that process, something becomes much more clear than before. So meeting together becomes important. Developing activities. In other words, you want to bring elder consciousness into the community, however you define community, gay and lesbian community, gay and non-gay community, however you define that, you want to bring elder consciousness, and there are activities you can do, discussions, et cetera, et cetera. It's up to you. So that would be a third thing. Organize a no gay elder circle. Number 4, I would suggest, is you have to become visible. The complaint I hear over and over and over again from younger gay people is we don't know how to find these elders. These elders are invisible. Every now and then they pop up somewhere, so you gotta be visible. Somehow you need to make yourself as an individual visible and begin to embody that role of elders so people can see you. And you need to put locations of how people can reach you in publications, what have you. If you need to talk to an elder, call blah, 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 blah. In other words, you gotta be visible. A fifth thing that becomes important in becoming an elder or claiming the role of elder is you have to take an interest, a genuine interest, in the life journeys of other people, particularly those who are younger than yourself. An elder is interested in what's happening, in the quality of life of adults and youth. You gotta be comfortable saying to a young person, saying to an adult, how are things going? How's life going for you? In other words, you have to take the initiative. You have to take the initiative to begin the conversation. Otherwise, you're not going to find out about these people. So not only do you have to be visible, you have to take the initiative asking about their life. And that can be done in 101 different ways. But basically, what the question that you're looking for is, how are things going? How's your life going? Where are there any problems that you're encountering? A sixth thing that you need to remember, I think, is you're going to have to listen, listen, listen. For some reason, people think that being an elder means you tell people what to do, or you share your own life with them. Nah. You listen to where they're at. You listen to what they're needing. And you might share things from your own life. You probably will. There are important things that happen. But you need to learn to listen to people and see what's happening to you. The seventh thing, you're not expected to know everything. Make referrals. If you don't know where those referrals are in your community, you'll find out by working with people. Or you might know because, like myself, you worked in a community for 50 years. So you know where the referral. But you're not expected to know everything. What you're needing to do is to get people to the resources that you know. And finally, let me just say, later on in this YouTube, you're going to get the information on how to contact me. If you're having problems, contact me by email. My email address will be given. I have probably made every mistake there is to be made in becoming a gay elder. And I can share my experience, strength, and hope with you in terms of how that might be done or how it might be looked at. So don't be afraid to ask questions or ask questions of me. I value that. Finally, let me end this section on how you become an elder by reading you a quote by Joan Halifax. Joan Halifax, check her out on Wikipedia. She's really an outstanding woman. Anthropologist, shaman, civil rights activist, hospice caregiver, a Buddhist teacher and author in Santa Fe, New Mexico. Joan Halifax, find out about her. These are two sentences that she has written that I think are two of the most powerful sentences I've encountered in terms of talking about elders. Let me read them to you. The first sentence, she says, "The wisdom we need to solve our problem lies encoded in the depths of our unconscious minds, but it must be evoked by elders who reveal our potential." Second sentence, throughout history, elders have served as beloved pathfinders, beckoning us to enter the province of old age in anticipation of growing strength and usefulness to society. Ms. Halifax is saying that the answers to many of these problems are within us, but you need an elder to draw that out of it. Educare again. You need an elder to draw that out of you in some way, to make the unconscious conscious. That the resources you need to solve most of those problems are already encoded within you. The second thing she says that is immensely important is that old age does not mean you become decrepit. Old age or elder does not mean that somehow or another you're pathological in some way. She says, it's beckoning us to enter the province of old age in anticipation of growing strength. Anticipation of growing strength, that's certainly true in my life. And usefulness to society. I've been useful for over 50 years, but yes, there's a new type of usefulness to society that comes in. To end this video, I'd like to tell you the story of Poder. I'd like to tell you the story of Poder. This story comes out of a First Nation people who live in Guatemala, up in the mountains of Guatemala. And when I first heard it, I thought, this really crystallizes, this really condenses what it is, the role that an elder plays. When Poder was being born, in the room where he was being delivered was, of course, his mother, the midwives, and the village elders came in to witness Poder's birth. Why? Because Poder was, every young person is born with gifts. The old understanding is each of us comes into this world with gifts. And if we know what those gifts are, we will live a life of purpose. And if we live a life of purpose, we'll have a meaningful death. And we will benefit the community of which we're a part. So the elders were very interested. What are the gifts that Poder is bringing into the world? Poder brought in the gift of the green cape and the gourd. Green cape and the gourd. Elders took the green cape and the gourd, wrapped it up, and left. Poder, as a kid, grows up, learns to walk, learns to talk, learns to whatever a young person does. And when he came to be about 16 years old, 17, 18, 19 years old, he began to have the nagging thought that there was an appointment he had. Somehow there was an appointment, and he didn't know what it was or where it was, but he had an appointment. And he was getting very, very worried, and he told his grandmother about this. I feel like I have an appointment, but I don't know where and with who or what. His grandmother went and told the elders this. And the elders summoned Poder to them. And they said, Poder, you have a journey to take. You must follow the following direction. Go to the waterfall. At the waterfall, turn left until you come to the largest tree in the forest. Then turn right, and they gave him these instructions. And they said, Poder, you must do this. You have an appointment to keep. And Poder sets off on this, and he comes to the house with the green door that he was supposed to go to. He knocks on the door, and a man opens it and says, oh, Poder, I've been expecting you. Because in that Guatemalan Indian culture, someone born with the gift of the green cape and the gourd means he knows how to make weather. He knows how to make it rain. And in a subsistence agricultural culture, knowing that the rains will show up every year at a certain time, it is immensely important to the survival of the people of that village. And that was the gift that Poder had. But it's interesting, when he was 15, 16, 17, he had a hunch that there was an appointment he needed to keep. Many young people today have that appointment, but there are no elders around to help them with that. And if you don't keep that appointment, you will become disappointed. Disappointed, that's where that word comes from, because you're not keeping your appointment. And many young people that I come in contact will say, I have the sense that there's some work I'm supposed to be doing. I have the sense that there's some mission I have. And they're absolutely correct. But if the elders have to be present to keep an eye on those young people from the time they're born, to know what gifts they carry, and at a certain point, bless those gifts and encourage them to get on with that journey and manifesting those gifts in the community. Our young people today are not having that experience, and they are lost. They are disappointed. Many of them are very disappointed because the elders are not blessing them. The elders are not showing them. The elders are not helping. Now remember the saying from the African saying, if elders are lost, adults will be lost. If adults are lost, youth will be lost. So the role that the elder is playing in society is tremendously important. And the role of elders today is just essential to the well-being of any community. Now, I want to hear from you, and this is how you can do that.
Like this, fire's getting warm as I rise my fist. Tropical storms as I write my script. Got to perform on a rhyme like this. Walk through the door and my eyes might shift. Got to explore, find my gifts. Share from the core, realize I'm stitched. To the dirt, to the stars, to the eyes of a fish. Camera lens for the documentation. Jamming with friends, it is not a vacation. Talk to the plants, hear thoughts of the ancients. Walk to defend all that is sacred. Not gonna bend to the boss of a nation. Lost in a frenzy of want to be famous. Drop the pretending, stop being anxious. Talk to the wind, never lost in the matrix.